Right, welcome ladies and gents. Seemingly some good news now for Henry Cavill, as well as just general fans of nerd culture, as it were. Warhammer, I guess that's nerd culture, isn't it? Tabletop RPG. So, Henry Cavill's next play, a Warhammer 40,000 series, good, and then the negative for Amazon. So, Amazon is in the process of closing the rights to the miniature war game, which I found a really interesting turn of events because Games Workshop went through a massive push lately of producing their own sort of pay-per-view, monthly subscription, but like a platform basically where they can sort of showcase fan work and their own movies and things. So it is interesting that they're still selling off the rights. Maybe that just wasn't productive. I mean, it's a surprise, because Games Workshop are notorious for keeping their IPs in-house rather than selling them off, which I can respect when they do something good with it. So that's one of the biggest surprises here. But look, obviously Henry Cavill was fired from DC because he's too old apparently, and this is what he next might be doing. So obviously he's not going to be donning a red cape, but he does have a cool new gig. So, Henry Cavill, who Wednesday officially hung up his Man of Steel cape after Warner Brothers announced it is going in a new Superman direction, thanks to DC studio heads James Gunn and Peter Safran. Which, FYI, if you didn't see the video I did yesterday on it, we have some reveals about that, and it sounds super lame, super boring. I'll leave it linked above. It's the new Superman movie. It sounds like everything we've seen before. Whether it sounds honestly a bit like a CW show movie, similar. But anyway, so Henry Cavill is attached to Star, which is fine. But the positive here is an executive produce a series adaptation of Warhammer 40,000, the popular science fiction fantasy miniature war game that is set up at Amazon. Now, him just being attached to Star is not that's not positive. I mean, he'd make a great Space Marine for sure. But the real positive thing is the fact that he's signed on to executive produce, an executive producer. Hopefully, he'll have some story say. That's what I want from this, and I'm sure maybe that's one of his conditions as well, because he's been burned by shit stories, like absolutely burned. And Amazon's not positive; they've just done Rings of Power. But when they do good things, and they have good executive producers pushing it in a correct direction, you end up with good things, like the Terminal List, for instance. Man in the High Castle, I like that. So, the one saving grace is if he has story say. If, as an executive producer, he has story say, this is going to be positive. This will save it from being a dumpster fire. Because Amazon's not positive, really. Amazon is in final talks for the rights to the game, produced by Games Workshop, after months of negotiations and fending off rival companies that also sought the rights. I am so surprised Games Workshop are selling off the rights. I am so surprised. Yeah, really, really, really surprised. I mean, we had them basically pinching loads of people who were producing fantastic YouTube fan films or fan series, and then pushing it all onto a subscription-based thing, which was their own little streaming platform, basically. And now they're like, oh yeah, we'll just sell the rights. Very strange. Really, really, really strange. Not something you expect from a company that is notorious. I think they even, at one point, they were trying to sue people or do cease and desists for individuals that basically produce 3D print models of things which were similar, which is any tabletop stuff nowadays. I would imagine this being Warhammer 40,000, we are looking at like Space Marines and things like that. That's what I'm gonna say is probably the case. And again, he'd be great with that. He would be absolutely brilliant. Imagine Henry Cavill as a Space Marine. Yeah, man, that'd be epic. I'm down for that if that's the case. Now, we've got no writers or showrunners attached, although Vertigo Entertainment is attached to also executive produce. Now, Vertigo Entertainment is Roy Lee and... it's just Roy Lee, basically. So, that's positive. That's actually quite good. Not bad. Not a bad idea at all. They have a pretty wide-ranging remit on what they sort of, get their hands involved in. And, it's not... It's more positive, I think, than it is negative from what I've seen in the past. Now, the article from The Hollywood Reporter goes, Warhammer is akin to Dungeons & Dragons, and it is. And I've been saying for a little while, I think the next boom in studio-developed products are tabletop RPGs. Dungeons & Dragons movie, I reckon, is going to blow the lid off that massively. Looks like it's just dumb fun, and I think people will buy into that. Warhammer will definitely push forward as well. And we were supposed to be getting an Eisenhorn series at a certain point, but that died a death. I think tabletop RPGs, because it's a built-in IP, it's got built-in lore, built-in stories, not massive fan bases, but big enough fan bases that you've got money coming in and sort of notoriety on the discussion stages. I think tabletop RPGs is the next thing. I really do. What do you guys think to a Warhammer series, maybe even a Dungeons & Dragons series? Or what would you guys think about a Scion, or Scions, series? Like Onyx Path stuff. Let me know. I'd be really keen to hear what you guys think that are fans of tabletop RPG stuff. So anyway, just for those that don't know, the game's setting is 40,000 years into the future. Humans have expanded across the galaxy. The God Emperor himself. You got things from the Warp. I have a playlist on Warhammer 40K. Some basic lore stuff here and there. It's really, not something which I'm hugely familiar with, but I really enjoyed diving into the lore and learning about it. Now, Cavill himself is known to be a huge Warhammer fan. He paints figures. He runs role-playing sessions. And because the project is in such early stages, Amazon has yet to close the deal. So this is not the next gig for Cavill specifically. But this is one of the next bigger gigs. Now, Hollywood Reporter says it is an ambitious move for Amazon and could deliver a show that is epic in scale as it combines the big genre elements of sci-fi and fantasy, as well as a host of human and non-human characters, as well as horror. You can really do some horror with this stuff. And it's funny as well that this is going to be a great show with massive scale and sci-fi. It's like, well, you just cancelled The Expanse, you dickhead. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you guys think? Henry Cavill, fired as Superman and now a Space Marine, hopefully, maybe. Pending. Let me know your thoughts down below. Cheers, guys. Take care.